She dosed him in petrol and set him on fire.
So your mother burnt your stepfather
Alive.
to death?
Yes. I still don't believe it. And it's shocking that my mum murdered someone.
For a while, I did despise my mum. She let us down. You know, your mum's supposed to be that one core person in your life who sticks with you no matter what. And then, bam, she's gone.
At times, it would get, like, too tough. And I don't like admitting it because I feel really guilty. But I used to self-harm.
Right now, it's estimated there's around 43,000 kids with a parent in prison. And with Australia's incarceration rates increasing like never before, that number is on the up every day. Without the right supports in place, children with mum or dad in lockup are said to be 6 times more likely to end up behind bars themselves.
The children of prisoners are the invisible, innocent victims of crime.
Children like Melody. Her mother was sentenced to life imprisonment. Left in state care, Melody was told her mother went to jail for driving offences, but she found out the truth years later.
I was 12 when I Googled it, and I kept that as a secret.
Where was your dad in all of this?
He committed suicide before I even turned 2.
How do you get through your teenage years, finding out that your mum is a murderer and then spending most of your weekends in prison?
Not gonna lie, I'd had days where I dreamed of what killing myself would be like. There are days now that I still can't cope. No one understands what it's like to have a parent in prison.
But today, Melody's coming together with others that have lost a parent to prison too.
Eventually, I stopped having feelings for my mum. I stopped loving. I just kind of went dead for her.
Many of these kids are sharing their stories like this for the first time.
We were abandoned many times because there was no one to look after us. That's when I couldn't ever forgive my mum. I could deal with all the drug use, the lying, the abuse. Couldn't deal with that.
Forgiveness doesn't take back what they've done. Like, I have a pile of Father's Day presents, like, in my room that over the years I haven't been able to give to my dad. I can always accept an apology, but you were never there to accept anything that I was willing to give you of my life or share any memories with, you know? I just feel odd out compared to everyone else. They've had experiences that I'm just never going to be able to experience. The kind of experiences people have with their parents.
This problem starts with the place and the time of arrest. No one's actually saying, how many dependents have you left behind?
Police often won't ask about kids at the point of arrest, and child welfare, education and the criminal justice system aren't working together as best they could. So these kids are falling through the cracks. Once mum or dad are in custody, some children end up handballed between family members or move through state care. They're in and out of school and spending weekends doing jail visits.
That was pretty rough, walking through the cells and seeing mum in her jail clothes, and it started clicking that, you know, mum was a drug dealer. She was pretty defeated. I could see the look on my mum's face. That was something it's pretty hard to forget. Just the look.
I spend a lot of time in prisons like this one doing research with parents in prison and trying to understand what their children are experiencing. Corrections want to play their part in reducing that impact as well.
Brisbane Women's Correctional Prison have never allowed cameras inside until now.
Please place your finger on the biometric reader. Identification successful.
That was a bit like Space Odyssey.
I've got trapped in there so many times.
I stand by your doors, nothing in your hands. Listen up for your names, everyone.
This is Pat.
Some of the mothers incarcerated here have been given permission to speak to us briefly, but can't be identified.
My youngest daughter, it's the first time she's ever been away from me.
Yep.
So
How old is she?
She's 2.
2. Oh, wow.
Do your kids understand where you are? Do you talk to them about it?
Yeah, on her phone she's got an alarm set for the day I get out.
Oh, wow. At the moment, our system is setting children up for failure, including poor education, difficulty getting employment, substance abuse, delinquency. We know this through the research that we're doing here in prison.
A lot of people were thinking that I would turn out like my mother and that I'd do something like she did.
Did you believe that?
Yes, I did, but I stopped believing that because I knew what sort of person I wanted to be.
What we know even less about is what it's like for parents once they're released from prison and how they reconnect with their children and what challenges that presents for them.
Like, I've been in and out of jail like 6 times, but every time you're going to rebuild that relationship, that connection, that friendship.
It hurts me to the core to see what I've done to the children. We started talking about it while I was in there, especially my son. I didn't realise the impact I'd had on him. I just felt a lot of guilt.
Joel, Mum's just come out of prison very recently.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
I get to start a normal life, rebuild the foundation of the relationship between me and my mum.
I'd like people to understand that it is possible to turn your life around and it is possible to rebuild and connect with your kids again.
What did you miss the most?
Just the simple things like coming home to mum cooking dinner or just having those small foundation a family normally has. I didn't really have that.
What needs to change for the children of prisoners is compassion and understanding by government, by law enforcement agencies, by the courts.
It's everybody's problem. Everybody in Australia is paying for all the people in prison, and we're also paying for the impact this is having on the next generation.
What we need to do is get in early, show them that they can make good choices and have hope for a future.
My future's looking really good at the moment with my potential future job in aged care. That's happening. Becoming a mother is happening.
Becoming a mother?
Yes.
So you're pregnant?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that something you've just learned recently?
Yes. I'm currently 14 weeks and 1 day. I always think of what sort of mother I will be. And I'm going to give the baby the love that I never really got as a child.
Well, Pat Abboud joins us now. Please make him feel welcome. The heartbreaking aspect of that story is we don't think about these kids, but there's obviously plenty of them. They're guilty of nothing. And that was so brave of them to open up, particularly in front of a camera.
Yeah, Liz, look, I spent quite a lot of time with those guys before we did any filming, and what I found is that they just want to be heard. They really just wanted someone to listen to them and hear them out. And by the time we started kind of filming, they felt confident to, share their stories in the way that they did. And when I asked them why, all of them said the same thing. They said that because when they were much younger, there was nobody around for them to look at and say, well, I can see myself in that experience. So they shared their stories essentially to reach out to the tens of thousands of others that are out there still struggling.
It was very clear how strong all of them were to have come through all of this. Was there anything that you learned from them about where that comes from when you don't have the sort of foundations of family that most of us enjoy?
They're the lucky ones, I think, and, meeting all of those guys, the resilience that they have comes from each other. So they are part of this kind of closed support group that's only quite new. And they told me before they had that, even going as simple as going to school, say, talking to somebody at school in the playground and saying, my mum's in prison, the level of bullying that comes with that, there's such a fear in that. So I think the reason they sort of developed that strength to share their stories was because they have each other. That's why we sort of sat in a circle together and made them feel as comfortable as possible. And they're incredible kids.
Well, if this story has raised any concerns for you and you'd like to talk to someone, you can always call Lifeline. The number is 13 11 14. And if you'd like to contribute to supporting the children of prisoners, you can find links on our webpage. Would you please put your hands together for Pat Abboud?